Riverdale High always lived by its own unspoken rules. Strength, status, and confidence were what mattered. If you were an athlete like Zach Wilson, every door was open to you. If you were bright, loud, and quick-witted, people noticed you. But if you were like Elliot Grayson, you simply didn't exist. Lanky, with perpetually messy dark hair, he always sat in the back row as if afraid someone might notice him. His voice was rarely heard in class, and during breaks he stayed as far from the action as possible. No one knew what he did after school, and frankly, no one cared. He was just background noise, a part of the school's scenery. But everyone had their own personal hell. And for Elliot, that hell had a name: Zach Wilson. The star of the football team, tall, muscular, with a smug grin and the look of someone who thought the world revolved around him. Zach didn't need a reason to pick on Elliot. He simply enjoyed watching him silently endure it. Sometimes, Zach would brush past him in the hallway, knocking him off balance without even sparing him a glance. Other times, he'd slap the books out of Elliot's hands, watching the pages scatter across the floor while the crowd around them erupted in laughter. "You should at least try to fight back once," Zach would smirk, crossing his arms over his chest. Elliot never responded. He just picked up his books, lowered his head, and walked away. But the worst moments happened in the cafeteria. That was where everyone knew their place, where noisy groups gathered around tables, where smiles and status dictated everything. That was where Zach would mock him the most. "Hey, you comfortable sitting all the way back there? Maybe we should get you your own private table. Oh, wait. Do you even eat? How do you even stay alive?" The crowd laughed. Some joined in. Others just looked away, pretending nothing was happening. And Caitlin, she didn't laugh. She didn't even look angry. If anything, she just looked sorry for him, and that was the worst part. "You don't even know how to stand up for yourself," she had once said when they accidentally bumped into each other near the lockers. A simple sentence. Calm, no mockery, no aggression. But something inside Elliot cracked. He didn't answer. He just clenched his fists and turned away. And deep inside him, a fire had ignited. It was just another school day, no different from hundreds of others. The final bell rang through the halls of Riverdale High, signaling the end of classes. Students flooded the corridors, filling the air with laughter, conversations, and the sound of lockers slamming shut. Everyone was in a rush to leave, making plans for the evening. As usual, Elliot stayed on the sidelines. With his backpack slung over one shoulder, he walked along the walls, avoiding the busiest parts of the hallway. But the moment he turned the corner leading to the side exit near the gym, he knew he had made a mistake. "Hey, quiet boy," came a familiar voice. Zach Wilson stood ahead, arms crossed over his chest. Flanking him were Jason and Trevor, his ever-loyal cronies. There was no one behind them. This corridor was nearly empty, especially after school hours. Elliot stopped, quickly assessing the situation. There was no way out. "Maybe now you'll finally show if you have even a shred of courage?" Zach smirked, stepping forward. Jason and Trevor followed suit, closing in on Elliot. Trevor moved first, grabbing Elliot by the collar, clearly intending to shove him against the wall or humiliate him like always. But this time, things went differently. Elliot stepped back sharply, his hands moving instinctively. In one fluid motion, he grabbed Trevor's wrist, his fingers pressing precisely at the right points, and a second later, Trevor lost his balance and crashed to the floor, landing hard on his elbow. Zach blinked, momentarily stunned. "You been training, weakling?" His voice was no longer mocking, it was irritated, but Elliot remained silent. His gaze was cold, his breathing steady. Inside him, something had ignited, something he had kept buried for too long. Whispers in the hallways, stolen glances. Some claimed they had seen the fight. Others insisted Elliot had been training in martial arts for years. No one knew for sure. But one thing had become clear. The boy everyone used to overlook was now at the center of attention. At Riverdale, this tournament was a legend. It wasn't on the school's official events list. The teachers turned a blind eye to it, but everyone knew it existed. The fights were held in an abandoned warehouse outside of town, drawing dozens of students. Not just the competitors, but those hungry for blood and spectacle. Grades didn't matter here. Popularity didn't matter. Only strength did. And for 3 years straight, Zach Wilson had ruled this ring. He crushed every opponent with the same effortless brutality, a king in his own right. When Elliot Grayson's name appeared on the list of competitors, the reaction was instant. "He wants to get himself killed?" Someone laughed. "Maybe he's just suicidal," another smirked. Elliot said nothing. He simply signed his name and walked away. The first round, against a towering basketball player, a full head taller than Elliot. Everyone expected a slaughter. They were right. It was over in seconds. Only Elliot wasn't the one on the floor. The second round, against a wrestler, massive and built like a truck. Another fall. Another stunned silence. It was too fast. Too clean. No one was laughing anymore. The crowd buzzed with anticipation. Zach sat on a bench, cracking his knuckles, smirking. But there was tension in his eyes. "I don't know what you're trying to pull," he sneered, standing up. "But you're done." The referee signaled the start, and Zach lunged forward. Fast, sharp, aggressive. Elliot didn't move. Watching Zach for years had paid off. He knew his every step, every strike, every habit. First punch, dodge. Second punch, dodge. Zach grew frustrated. He lunged harder, throwing his full strength into a swing. Nothing. Elliot slipped past and finally struck back. One hit, another. Zach couldn't keep up. Then, one sharp movement, and Zach's body hit the ground. He lay there, chest rising and falling rapidly, struggling to focus his vision. But deep down, he knew. It was over. No one could believe what they had just witnessed. Elliot Grayson had won. The floor beneath him felt unstable. The ringing in his ears drowned out the roar of the crowd. His body refused to obey. Muscles trembled with exhaustion. His lungs fought for air. He ran his tongue over his split lip, tasting the sharp tang of blood. This was impossible. Zach Wilson didn't lose. Not here. Not in front of everyone. He tried again, forcing himself to stand, but his knees betrayed him. He crashed back down. Swallowing hard, he lifted his head. His eyes met Elliot's. Elliot stood in front of him, calm, composed, barely even winded. There was no rage in his expression, no smugness, no gloating. Just quiet, undeniable certainty. And suddenly, Zach understood. This feeling, weakness, the sheer helplessness before someone stronger than you, the very thing he had forced others to endure for years. For the first time in his life, he knew what it was like to be the one who was humiliated. His chest rose and fell in shallow, ragged breaths. He coughed, struggling to form words, but finally croaked out, What the hell are you?" Elliot looked at him, steady and unmoving. He didn't rush to answer, as if giving Zach time to fully absorb his own downfall. "Just someone you never should have underestimated." The crowd erupted into cheers. Loud, wild, deafening. Students who had once ignored Elliot now shouted his name. They saw him now. They saw his strength. Zach sat on the ground, head lowered. Everything had changed for him. But for Elliot, this was only the beginning.